It was a weird thought to have, but I think jazz is the metamodern music. Which, I don't know, it just seems weird because it was born in such a modern and postmodern era. Well, but jazz accepts that melody, beautiful melody in the normal generic scale is what's in your heart. It doesn't do away with that, your average jazz. Even some of your more post-bop, like crazy jazz stuff. These, the Miles Davis Quintet, these post-bop people would start off with a head and then go into a solo chorus, which would go crazy. But it started off with the head, with the tune. It doesn't do it. So it doesn't deny that there's this thing that you learn and know from thousands of generations, and that it's inside of you, and that thing is melody, or kind of certain melodies, specific melodies, and we could talk about how melodies work, because they work exactly like everything else in the world, right? So there's notes which lead to other notes, and then notes which resolve those notes, and notes which sound good to each other, because some notes in those chords are leading to some other notes which that note is somewhat related to or discordant with. It's the same push and pull as in that the whole universe is made of. But so then we have this kind of generic melody which jazz doesn't pretend to do away with, like a lot of modern music, non-pop music does. But then we have the push, like, okay, you've got that. You've got the basics in you. Now push it. Get out of it. Just a little bit. Get out of it and come back. Get out of it and come back. Get out of it and come back. It's the hero story of music. The hero's journey of music, right? Get out of, when you're sitting, anyone that's competent in reading a little bit of melody and a little bit of chord, you can sit down with a jazz player and play, twinkle a little bit, and then, just do that one note out. Just do that one note that's a little funkier, that you're not quite ready for, which is, I think, where improvisation kind of has a heightened state for the player, maybe not the listener. It's like, I'm going to do that one thing I'm not quite comfortable with, and then quickly come back. And so you bring back to the melody things you've learned from that, and now you can incorporate that technique into your future playing and the current melodies. And so you're going back and forth between this grounded nature and then this exploratory nature that questions and deconstructs everything and says, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. But you're always grounded in that, and not even grounded. You always go back and forth between the two of that, more solid melody. And the chords are the same way. The chords are extremely simple chord patterns most of the time, except they'll throw in funky stuff. So you always got your 1, 2, 5 in 75% of jazz music, but they might have something funky leading into that, or that 7 chord might be a diminished chord, etc. I don't know. I'm gonna keep playing with this. I find it kind of hard to believe because just of how old Zen is, but how kind of, not how old it is necessarily, but how it was kind of came up entrenched in a certain ideology of America, and that, I don't know, was ready for kind of this sort of thing, but it obviously was. They used to say that jazz is like the sound of the people, the sound of the streets. I don't know if they used to say that. I've probably seen a few movies who caricatured jazz era stuff that says that, but it's right. Like, so, walking down the street is just this inherent musical thing. And when people come into my shop, I have jazz playing, and you can hum along. You just hum along. You don't have to hum the tune. You don't need to know the tune. Some tunes people know, but when during the solo chorus, it's almost as if they're just playing It's almost as if they're just playing a melody, and you can just be like, and hum along with it, because the chords are obvious, and you know that you can fuck it up, and it won't matter, that it's about experimenting. You can try this note, and this note, and this note, and you just hum along, and it's so easy to do.